In truth, up until the Middle Ages, England was relatively insignificant in Europe, much like an isolated island on the fringe. Yet by the 18th century, Britain had successfully ignited the Industrial Revolution and emerged as a dominant global power. But why Britain of all places? Europe had other strong nations like France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands. Asia had powerhouses like the Qing Dynasty. In this video, we'll first explore the reasons why Britain was the pioneer of the Industrial Revolution. In the second part, we'll delve into why other nations lagged behind. Throughout human history, many revolutions have taken place. But if we were to single out the two most significant, they'd undoubtedly be the agricultural and industrial revolutions. They completely transformed human life. The agricultural revolution, around 10,000 BC, shifted humans from hunter-gatherers to farming, paving the way for settled communities and then even the formation of societies and nations. However, even up to the early 18th century, right before the Industrial Revolution, the standard of living hadn't changed much. During periods of population growth, famine was common. It was only when massive deaths occurred due to epidemics or wars that food availability would somewhat improve. Hence, the rate of population growth was pretty slow, primarily because of the clear limitations of agricultural productivity. This concept is commonly known as Malthus's trap. Thomas Robert Malthus, a renowned British economist, famously said in his population theory, "While the population increases geometrically, food supply grows arithmetically." Yet, the Industrial Revolution transitioned us from the agricultural era to the industrial age, essentially characterized by mass production through technology. For the first time in history, it became possible for humans to lead affluent lives, finally breaking free from Malthus's trap. That's the greatness of the Industrial Revolution. When we hear the word revolution, we might mistakenly think of it as a sudden, impulsive event. But such massive shifts don't just happen overnight. The Industrial Revolution took time to prepare, and its effects gradually manifested over a long period. The seeds of change in Britain probably began around the 16th century during the Renaissance. The wool industry began to thrive, and large British farms started fencing off their lands to raise sheep instead of farming crops. This is known as the enclosure movement. As a result, many farmers, having lost their lands, flocked to cities in search of work. These displaced individuals became the low-wage workers essential for the Industrial Revolution. Still, with advancements in seed quality and farming techniques, agricultural productivity rose, ensuring a steady food supply within Britain. This process incrementally accumulated the initial capital needed for the Industrial Revolution. Then, in the 17th century, the slave trade connecting Britain, Africa, and America became a lucrative enterprise, completing the capital accumulation. Britain sold a staggering 3.3 million slaves from Africa. Now, with labor and capital in place, the only thing left was the right institutional framework. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 provided just that. Power shifted to Parliament, and private property rights began to receive formal protection. Notably, patent rights became critical. Until then, inventions were public goods free for anyone to use. Inventors had no real economic incentive. But now, with the possibility of amassing wealth from a single idea, a flood of inventions and innovations began pouring out of Britain. One such innovation was James Watt's steam engine. If you had to pinpoint just one invention as the most vital of the Industrial Revolution, it would undoubtedly be this. Following the creation of the steam engine, a multitude of derivative inventions emerged like popping popcorn, culminating in the massive transformation known as the Industrial Revolution. The invention of the steam engine was initially for pumping water out of coal mines. At that time, coal was often referred to as the black diamond. Wood was too expensive to use as an energy source. Even blacksmiths struggled with the high cost of wood, leading to them being closed more days than they were open. However, a small amount of coal could produce significant heat compared to wood. Even before the Industrial Revolution, coal was gradually being used in British homes and factories. What's more, British coal was close to the surface, making it much cheaper to mine than in other countries. The coal reserves in the central and northern parts of Britain were world-class. Additionally, the overlap of coal and iron ore deposits was a huge advantage for Britain. This proximity significantly reduced the cost of mining iron ore, allowing for savings in initial capital when building factories and producing various machinery. In essence, steam engines, coal, and iron were a perfect trio. Thanks to the steam engine, Britain could supply coal and iron more affordably and in greater quantities. As coal and iron production increased, steam engines found uses in more and more sectors. At one point, coal produced in Britain accounted for over 80% of the world's supply. With Watt's steam engine, Britain developed a cyclical structure, importing cotton from abroad using steamships, transporting it to city factories via steam trains, producing goods with steam-powered looms, and then exporting the cotton textiles back to the world using steamships. Other European countries, where coal mining was more expensive, couldn't easily replicate this due to cost constraints. The invention of the steam engine played another crucial role in Britain pioneering the Industrial Revolution. Until then, apart from human and animal labor, the primary energy source was water power. Processes like grinding grains with water wheels or extracting thread from cotton with water-powered machines required locations near large streams. But now, with the steam engine and coal, power could be generated anywhere it was needed. Naturally, Britain capitalized on this, building factories right in the heart of cities where cheap labor was abundant. This led to an unparalleled increase in productivity, truly epitomizing the Industrial Revolution's hallmark of mass production using technology and machinery. Now, let's address the final piece of Britain's distinct puzzle. To produce goods, raw materials are essential, and once those goods are manufactured, a vast market is needed to sell them. Britain had an advantage over other countries with its numerous colonies that met these needs. For instance, Britain could import cotton at rock-bottom prices from Bengal and India, manufacture textiles in bulk using steam-powered looms, and then sell these products not only back to India, but also to colonies worldwide, reaping substantial profits. Interestingly, India was once the leading nation in cotton textiles. Britain, as we saw with the enclosure movement, was a powerhouse in woolen textiles. However, India's cotton fabrics were lighter, easier to wash, and most importantly, more affordable than Britain's woolen ones, making them immensely popular, even within Britain. There was a time when Britain faced a significant trade deficit due to the popularity of Indian cotton textiles. Even though Britain wanted to produce cotton textiles, they couldn't compete with India's low labor costs. For a while, Britain even restricted the imports of Indian cotton textiles. To offset this, the British East India Company began importing tea from China, which led to the creation of Britain's famous tea culture. In any case, the key invention to address the relatively high wages in Britain was the steam-powered loom and spinning machine. Unlike their manual predecessors, steam-powered looms and spinning machines didn't require significant strength. As a result, employers predominantly hired women who were less expensive than men. This marked the beginning of women entering the workforce in earnest. Britain's textile industry, thanks to the steam-powered loom, experienced an explosive growth, setting the stage for the Industrial Revolution. Witnessing this incredible success, British industries embraced mechanization across nearly all sectors, leading to Britain's first Industrial Revolution. In contrast, India's previously dominant cotton textile industry faced devastation. No matter how cheap the labor, it couldn't compete with machine-driven mass production. Consequently, India ended up primarily as a supplier of raw materials and a consumer market for Britain. The famous image of Mahatma Gandhi spinning cotton on a spinning wheel symbolized his protest against the British textile business. This approach, excluding India of indirect control over most colonies, stemmed from Britain's primary focus on sourcing raw materials and ensuring markets for their products, rather than territorial acquisition. While there are several reasons the Industrial Revolution began in Britain, these are the core factors. In the next part, we'll discuss why other countries lagged behind Britain and whether people living during the Industrial Revolution truly benefited from and led more prosperous lives.